Over 60, 4 habits you should never do, and 4 that prevent heart attack. Have you ever heard about someone you know, a man who took his morning walks faithfully, ate carefully, lived a healthy lifestyle, and yet one ordinary afternoon he suddenly collapsed from a heart attack? Did you ever ask yourself, why would a heart that seemed so strong betray him at the most unexpected moment? And more importantly, if it happened to him, could it happen to you tomorrow? The truth is, you can exercise regularly, eat a restricted diet, take your medications exactly as prescribed, and still suffer a sudden heart attack. Not because of fate, but because of a small, hidden habit you repeat every single day without realizing it. Sounds hard to believe, doesn't it? Yet research published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that skipping breakfast alone can raise your risk of dying from cardiovascular disease by up to 87%. So how many other innocent habits might be quietly weakening your heart while you continue to believe you're living healthily? Think of your heart as a silent musician. For 60, 70 years, it has been playing the song of life without pause. But every morning, instead of letting it warm up gently, you force it onto a dark stage with no instrument, no rhythm, no conductor. It stumbles, it gasps for breath, and one day it might fall silent forever. Does that image make you shiver? The frightening part is that these mistakes don't wear the face of killers. They hide behind labels like heart healthy, behind the mask of smart dieting, behind routines that look harmless. And the more convinced you are that you're doing the right thing, the closer you may be to an ending that never had to happen. Are you absolutely sure you're not among them? But here is the part that should make you stop and listen. Sometimes just one small change, a balanced breakfast, a simple stretch between tasks, a single minute of deep breathing, can slash your risk of stroke and heart attack by dozens of percentage points. So what are the silent habits that are slowly destroying the hearts of most people over 60? And which 4 simple, science-backed habits could actually save your life? In the next section, I'll reveal the very first mistake, one that many proudly call discipline or smart dieting, but in reality is the trap that quietly weakens the hearts of millions of older adults every single day. Do you want to know what it is? And what do people over 60 fear most? Not the wrinkles, not the slower steps, but the terror of a stroke or heart attack striking suddenly, especially when they are alone. Can you picture waking up at night, your heart pounding violently, sweat pouring down, and that fleeting thought, is this the end? It's not just a fear, it's the daily reality faced by millions of seniors around the world. The remarkable thing is that most of us still believe heart disease can only be prevented with medications or punishing workout regimens. But the truth is, you can prevent up to 80% of strokes and heart attacks with small, consistent changes in your daily lifestyle. Would you like to know exactly what those changes are? The problem is, many people don't recognize the difference between what's right and what's dangerously wrong. They skip breakfast thinking it's smart dieting. They buy packaged foods labeled heart healthy, never realizing those labels hide thousands of milligrams of salt. They exercise in the morning, then sit in a chair for the rest of the day, believing they've done enough. And it's exactly these misconceptions that slowly weaken the heart hour by hour. Are you certain you've never fallen into one of these traps yourself? That's why I want you to do something right now so you don't miss what comes next. If you believe the information I'm about to share could help you or someone you love, type the number 1 in the comments below this video. If you think heart health isn't your concern, type 0. I promise you, in just a few minutes, you'll realize that the answer you choose today could change the rest of your tomorrow. In the next section, we'll begin with the very first mistake, a mistake that seems harmless but can drastically increase the risk of dying from heart disease. Have you ever skipped breakfast, all the while thinking you were doing the right thing? Mistake number 1. Skipping breakfast or eating it the wrong way. There's one habit that many people proudly consider self-discipline or even intelligent dieting. But in reality, it's the most dangerous trap for the heart after 60. Do you know what it is? It's skipping breakfast or treating breakfast as an afterthought. How many times have you told yourself, it's fine to skip breakfast, a cup of coffee will do? And are you sure your heart agrees with that decision? After a long night, your heart has been working non-stop. It deserves to start the day gently, with steady fuel from a proper meal. Instead, far too many people begin their mornings with an empty stomach and a strong cup of sugary coffee. Picture this. If you started a car on the highway and floored the gas pedal before checking the oil or the engine, what would happen? Is your heart really any different from that engine? When you skip breakfast, cortisol, the stress hormone, rises, causing sudden spikes in heart rate and blood pressure. Then, when you grab a pastry or a sweetened coffee, your insulin surges and then crashes like a roller coaster. Your heart is forced to keep adjusting to these erratic swings in blood sugar. Does it scare you to imagine your aging heart, already more fragile with the years, having to leap across jagged rocks in the dark every single morning? The good news is that just one small change can turn things around. Adding a bit of protein from a boiled egg, healthy fats from chia seeds, and fresh fruit like blueberries or apples can make all the difference. Within a few weeks, many of my patients reported more stable blood pressure, sustained energy well into the afternoon, and most importantly, a feeling of ease and comfort in their chest. Wouldn't you want to feel safer simply by choosing a heart-friendly breakfast every day? But skipping breakfast is not the only mistake. There is another trap, even more deceptive, because it hides behind a perfect disguise, printed in bold on supermarket packaging with a bright red heart and the promise of being heart healthy. But can your heart really trust those labels? Mistake number 2. Blindly trusting the heart-healthy label. Have you ever stood in the grocery aisle, spotted a box of cereal or a can of soup stamped with a big red heart and the words "heart healthy," and felt instantly reassured enough to buy it without a second thought? How many times have you believed that products labeled low-fat or cholesterol-free were automatically safe choices for your heart? And are you sure those labels are truly protecting you, or are they quietly lulling you into a false sense of security? The real danger doesn't lie in what you refuse to eat, but in what you blindly trust. Many products marketed as heart-healthy are loaded with salt and additives at levels that are downright dangerous. Did you know sodium is often called the silent killer? It doesn't cause pain, coughing, or fever, but day after day, hour after hour, it raises the pressure inside your blood vessels, forcing your heart to beat harder, thicker, more exhausted. Do you really think your heart can carry that burden for another 10 years? When that patient realized the problem, she began to change. Each time she shopped, she trained herself to read labels carefully. If the word sodium appeared within the first 3 ingredients, she put the item back on the shelf. She chose fresh vegetables, cooked at home, and limited packaged foods. Within just 2 months, her blood pressure dropped nearly 15 mmHg without any change in medication. Can you see the power of one small but wise adjustment? But what happens if the next thing you trust isn't a product, but your own body? What if you believe you're fine, just a little tired, a little short of breath, just normal aging, while your heart is desperately trying to send you clear warning signals? Are you sensitive enough to hear them before it's too late? Mistake number 3. Ignoring early warning signs from your body. The heart rarely sounds the alarm with crushing chest pain or a dramatic collapse. More often, it whispers, an irregular beat, a brief shortness of breath after a few steps on the stairs,
an unexplained wave of fatigue after a meal. Have you ever felt these things and reassured yourself, it's just age? But have you ever wondered, what if those are cries for help you're choosing to ignore? The frightening reality is that up to 50% of deaths from heart attacks occur in people who never recognized any clear symptoms beforehand. That statistic comes from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Can you picture that? Half of those who lost their lives never believed they were in danger. And when their stories are reviewed, most had faint hints: a racing heartbeat at rest, a moment of dizziness, unusual fatigue, or shortness of breath on a simple walk. So why do we keep blaming old age to excuse our neglect? Your body always knows how to send signals. The question is, are you listening closely enough? Don't wait until the sound of an ambulance siren replaces the rhythm of your own heartbeat. The moment you notice something unusual, unexpected breathlessness, pounding heartbeat at rest, or simply the sense that something feels off, go get checked. Don't delay. Will you choose to trust your complacency or give your heart the chance to be saved in time? But sometimes it's not only ignoring the body's signals that puts you at risk. There's another mistake, even more deceptive, one that nearly every older adult falls into. They believe they're doing the right thing, that they're safe, but in reality, this very habit quietly weakens the heart day after day, even for those who exercise regularly. Are you curious to know what it is?
Mistake number 4. Sitting too long, even if you exercise. Do you still believe that a morning walk or half an hour of yoga is enough to make your whole day healthy? How many times have you proudly told yourself that keeping up with a morning exercise routine means you've done your part, only to spend the rest of the day sitting motionless at a desk, on the sofa, or in front of the TV? Have you ever wondered if 1 hour of exercise can really make up for hours upon hours of sitting still afterward? The harsh truth is, it can't. Studies show that sitting more than 6 hours a day can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease by up to 64%. Even more alarming, this number doesn't change much even if you exercise regularly. In other words, prolonged sitting can cancel out much of the benefit you gained from your workout. Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? But the human body was never designed to be motionless for hours on end. When you sit too long, circulation in your legs slows. Fats build up in your bloodstream, and the enzymes that break down fat nearly shut down. Blood pressure rises, forcing your heart to work harder. Can you picture the burden your heart carries in those moments? The solution was surprisingly simple. We suggested he set an alarm every 60 minutes. When the bell rang, he would stand up, take a 2-minute stroll, or simply stretch his arms and legs. After 3 weeks, his blood lipids improved, his blood pressure stabilized, and most importantly, he told me, I no longer feel sluggish, my mind feels clearer, and my body feels refreshed. Wouldn't you want to feel that difference in your own body? A large-scale study by the American Cancer Society involving more than 100,000 adults also confirmed that prolonged sitting is directly linked to premature death from heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes, especially in those over 60. Sitting won't kill you in one day. It kills silently, hour by hour, minute by minute. Are you letting your heart quietly wear itself out without even realizing it? This proves one thing. Exercise is not an antidote for an entire day of sitting. Movement is not an event, it's a rhythm of life. And your heart needs that rhythm not once a day, but many times each hour. So if these 4 mistakes are silently damaging your heart, what are the simple, science-based habits that can truly protect you from heart attack and stroke? Do you want to know?
Right habit number 1. Gentle, consistent movement. Your heart doesn't need marathons. It doesn't need high-intensity workouts that leave your shirt drenched in sweat. What it needs is rhythm, consistency, gentle movements that continuously remind your body it is alive, flowing, circulating. Have you ever realized that just by walking slowly every day, you could cut nearly 1/3 of your risk of dying from heart disease? According to the official guidelines from the American Heart Association, only 150 minutes of moderate activity per week, about 22 minutes a day, can reduce cardiovascular death by up to 31%. The number is even more impressive for adults over 60. Doesn't it feel like a relief to know you don't have to train like an athlete, but simply keep up small, steady movements each day to make a huge difference? The key is that the right exercise isn't about kilometers or minutes. It's about whether you give your body steady rhythm. A walk around the garden, a stretch after watching TV, standing up to pour yourself a glass of water instead of asking someone else. These are all small gifts for your heart. Are you giving your heart those gifts every day? Remember, your heart doesn't need you to run far. It needs you not to forget it. It doesn't need speed. It needs your presence. And every step you take, no matter how short, is a reminder that you're still walking side by side with your heart. So if movement is the rhythm of the heart, what fuel will nourish it every single day? Is what you're eating quietly healing you, or slowly eroding your arteries?
Right habit 2. Eating right for the heart. People often say you are what you eat, but after 60, it's more accurate to say your heart reflects everything you eat. Have you ever thought that every meal is not just about hunger or fullness, but a direct message sent to your blood vessels? A salty bowl of soup can stiffen them, while a plate of leafy greens can make them supple again. So what is your diet doing every day? Nurturing your heart or wearing it down? Science is clear. Anti-inflammatory foods, dark leafy greens, berries, fatty fish rich in omega-3s, whole grains, don't just support digestion, they directly reduce the silent inflammation in the inner lining of your arteries, the very place where every heart attack and stroke begins. A study published in Circulation showed that older adults following a Mediterranean-style diet, rich in vegetables, nuts, and fatty fish, had a 30% lower risk of heart disease compared to those eating a Western diet, full of red meat and processed foods. Does that number impress you? The key point is that eating right doesn't mean eating miserably. It's not about counting every calorie or cutting out all fats. Eating right means choosing foods your body thanks you for after the meal is over. A truly healthy meal should leave you rising from the table with a sense of ease, not heaviness, sleepiness, or fatigue. Is your heart smiling after each meal, or are you forcing it to work overtime? And if you think diet is everything, you may be missing something just as important, perhaps even more powerful than any eating plan. It's the free medicine that everyone has access to, yet the older we get, the more we tend to neglect it. Do you know what it is?
Right habit number 3. Sleep well and enough. If movement is the rhythm of the day, then sleep is the quiet recovery of the night. And yet, the older people get, the more they underestimate that silence. Do you find yourself going to bed later, sleeping less, tossing and turning, and then reassuring yourself it's normal to sleep less when you're older? But do you realize that for your heart, sleep is never just optional? When you fall into deep sleep, your heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, anti-inflammatory hormones are activated, and your blood vessels begin their nightly repair work. Only then does your heart truly rest. On the other hand, sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night can raise the risk of heart attack and stroke by 20 to 30%. This was proven in a study of more than 450,000 adults published in the European Heart Journal. Are you surprised to see that just a few hours of missed sleep can shorten the life of your heart? But oversleeping, more than 9 hours a night, isn't the solution either. That kind of sleep is often not restorative at all, but rather a sign of underlying problems like depression, fatigue syndromes, or sleep disorders, all of which increase the risk of blood clots and arrhythmias. So the real question is, are you getting enough restorative sleep, or are you simply lying in bed longer without truly recovering? Remember, sleep is not a luxury. It's a requirement for a heart that wants to live long and stay strong. Every late night, every shortened rest is time stolen from your heart's healing process. So will you keep sacrificing your sleep, or will you choose to give your heart many more years of health? But even if you eat well, move regularly, and sleep enough, there's still a silent enemy that can undo it all. It doesn't live in your food, it doesn't hide in your sleep, it lives in your mind, following you from morning till night. Do you know what it is? Stress. And how you manage it may decide how your heart beats tomorrow.
Right habit number 4, managing stress the right way. There is a silent enemy almost everyone carries, but few realize it's quietly exhausting the heart day after day. It isn't in your plate, it isn't in the number of steps you take, it's in your thoughts. That enemy is stress. Have you ever felt your heart race when you're angry, or your chest tighten after a day of worry? Have you ever wondered if those invisible pressures could kill the heart faster than cigarettes or cholesterol? When stress lingers, your body shifts into constant alert. Cortisol rises, adrenaline floods, blood pressure climbs, and the heart beats faster. Not just for an hour, but day after day, week after week, month after month. The vessel walls become inflamed, the inner lining is damaged, the arteries stiffen. And then, one small shock in life is enough to push the heart past its limit. According to a study published in Circulation, high stress levels can increase the risk of heart attack by 27% and stroke by 30% in adults over 60. Do you realize that the very worries you think you're handling may be acting as daily poison to your heart? The important thing to understand is that managing stress doesn't mean eliminating all worries from life. That's impossible. It means learning how to slow your pace, to give your heart moments of stillness to recover, a deep breath, a quiet pause, a moment with a cup of tea and no distractions. These are the free medicines your heart has been waiting for. So why not give it that chance? You can eat clean, exercise faithfully, and sleep enough. But if you carry stress in your mind all day, you are forcing your heart to strain from within. And the saddest truth is, no one can hear your heart groaning under that pressure, except you. Will you choose silence, or will you choose peace for your heart? Now that you know the 4 dangerous mistakes and the 4 powerful habits, the question becomes, how do you weave them into one complete lifestyle, simple, practical, and effective to keep your heart strong for years to come? Would you like to discover the roadmap to protecting your heart after 60? By now, we've walked together through 4 silent mistakes that slowly kill the heart and 4 simple habits that can save it. Take a moment to look back. Over the years, have you skipped breakfast? Trusted those heart-healthy labels without a second thought? Brushed off unusual fatigue or shortness of breath as just age? Spent hours sitting still without realizing the toll it takes? And perhaps, have you never considered that just one small change could be enough to transform the future of your heart? Science has proven that you can reduce your risk of stroke and heart attack by up to 80% with small lifestyle changes. That number isn't a distant promise, it's a fact, backed by research. So why do we wait until the heart rings its final alarm before we decide to change? Do you really want to wait for the sound of an ambulance siren before you start listening to your body? Remember, your heart has worked faithfully, without complaint, for decades.
It is never asked for luxury. All it asks is that you pay attention to the little things: a healthy breakfast, a single step, a deep night's sleep, a quiet moment of peace. In return, it gives you more years to watch your grandchildren grow, more days to hold your loved ones' hands, more time to live well and live joyfully. Do you see how priceless that gift really is? The message I want you to take with you today is simple. Aging does not have to mean illness. Aging can mean peace, strength, and a heart resilient enough to walk beside you for many more years. And it all begins with the small choices you make today. Will you choose to let your heart slowly wear itself out? Or will you choose to give it more life, more hope? If you've stayed with me to this point, I believe you already know your answer. But before we close, I want to leave you with one final thought, an opportunity not just to protect your own heart, but to spread that life-saving strength to the people you love. Are you ready for that? If what I've shared today has made you stop and think about your heart, then please don't keep it to yourself. One small change can save a life, and who knows, this very video might be the timely wake-up call for a family member, a friend, or even a neighbor. So if you found it helpful, hit like and share it with at least one person you care about. Do you realize that your action today might be the reason they avoid a stroke tomorrow? And if you'd like to keep walking this path with me, learning simple, science-based ways to add years of health to your life, then subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Because here you will always find practical, easy-to-understand information, written especially for people your age. Your heart has carried you faithfully to this very day. Don't wait until it cries out for help to start listening. Let it know that from now on, you will no longer forget it. Are you ready to give your heart that gift?